Parshiyos, Matos Masei, Shabbos, Chazak. You know, when we come to the Chazak of this week, I give you a little thought. You know, we always say how time flies, and we have to really hold on and try to use every week, every parsha, everything. The next Chazak is Simchas Torah. So it's moving right along, and it's going pretty fast. And we have so much. We have two long parshiyos this week. And aside from that also, we're in the Bein Hametzarim between Shavasa B'Tamuz and Tisha B'Av. So I'm going to take the liberty of asking Mechila from the parshiyos of this week, and we're going to focus a little more on the Bein Hametzarim. And it's important when we're in a time, when we're going through something, when Klal Yisrael is going through a certain time of the year, and something is coming, like we always mention, we don't want to be asleep at the wheel. We don't want to wake up on the other side and say, why didn't I gain from the Bein Hametzarim? Why didn't I understand what's really going on in the Bein Hametzarim? And Chazal tell us, very interesting thing, Chazal tell us that Shoyal and V'Dorshin B'Hilchas HaMoyed. It's brought down in Halacha that before you come to a Yom Tov, whether it's Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot, Chanukah, Pesach, Shavuos, there are specific halachas for every Yom Tov. There are specific things that we're supposed to know about. So Chazal brought down halacha, Shoyal and V'Dorshin B'Hilchas HaMoyed, and what that really is telling us is that by Yidden, whenever it comes to any Yom Tov, any holiday, or any occasion, that's something that's coming up, we need to analyze it. And we have to study, not just to study the halachas of the practical applications of halacha. We need to study it and understand how it applies to us and what are the lessons of nitzchias within the Yom Tov that's coming up. And when we say Yom Tov, we're hoping that Tisha B'Av is still going to be a Yom Tov this year. But even if it's not a Yom Tov, if it's a Tainus, and it's Bein Hametzarim, there's so much that we have to learn that applies to us. And of course, what we learn is always for the nitzchias. There are eternal lessons and everything. Nesivos Shalom tells us that this halacha of Shoyal and V'Dorshin, we have to apply it also to this time of the year, right now, to the Bein Hametzarim. We need to understand what exactly is this avelos of the Churban. It comes Shavas B'Tamuz, yes, so we turn off the music. And then when it comes to the 9 days, we don't go swimming. And when we don't have chasanas, we don't have those kind of things. Certainly Ashkenazim don't have any of these things now. And in Sfardim, when it comes to Shul Shachal by Tisha B'Av, but we're really a little bit missing the boat if we just turn off the music. We don't understand why we're doing it or how it applies to us. So what is the nitzchias lesson? What is the lesson in this time of the year that we have to take out and use? What's the purpose? And there's one thing, Nesivos Shalom says something right away, off the bat, very interestingly, and the way he says it, and he says that one thing you could be sure of is that the avelos that we have of the 3 weeks is not to mourn something that we once had and we don't have it anymore. But Klal Yisrael, Nesivos Shalom says this, he says, Klal Yisrael, we don't commemorate things of the past unless they have some relevance to us, to the present or for the future. And of course, there's the saying, we don't cry over spilled milk, but that's really what it is. And Nesivos Shalom is telling us that we don't cry about it. If it's not negated to us now, a Yid has to be b'simcha. A Yid has to be happy. You have to be able to get past it and get over it. But yet, that's only from things which have no relevance to us right now. But for something that has relevance now, in the present, or even if it's in the future, there we have to have some connection to it right now. We have to understand how we connect to it. In addition, Chazal tell us in the S.S.S. from Perek Chaf Aleph that there's a gezerah min hashamayim. We know that by a mace, someone who passes away, so with time, that after a year, there's a special toiva, a gezerah min hashamayim, that a person is able to, in other words, you don't forget totally in your mind, but you forget up to the extent where you can function, where you can move on. That's a special gezerah that a mace after a year or after a certain amount of time is a little bit, sometime after Shloshim and then after a year. And as the years go by, that a person can get their act together and be able to continue on. People need to be able to forget. You need to be able to forget in a certain way and continue on. And yet we find something so fascinating. When it comes to Yerushalayim, Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. I don't remember the exact number, but probably around 1960 years ago, give or take, something like that. Very soon it's going to be 2,000 years, and of course Mashiach is going to come long before then. But it's almost 2,000 years, and yet we know famous pasuk in Tehillim. The pasuk tells us, "Im eshkachech Yerushalayim tishkach yimini," and somehow I think if it wasn't the Yaakov Shweki song, and it happens to be, there's just a little plug I threw out there. My brother happened to have composed that song. He wrote that song, most famous song in the world today. If you don't know it, you have to check your lineage. But besides it being a song, we have to know and we have to understand what that means. That if I'm going to forget Yerushalayim, then my right hand should be forgotten. In other words, a mace, we said, after a year. Here we're almost 2,000 years, and the David HaMelech is telling us in Tehillim that you cannot ever forget Yerushalayim. Why is it that way? Why can't we move on, so to speak, like a 21st century kind of thing? It's like, guys, get over it, right? Okay, let's move on. Let's recreate. Let's innovate. Let's start again. Let's start from scratch. No, the pasuk in Tehillim is telling us you can never have that. Nesivos Shalom says that the Yerushalayim, and he tells us why right away. He says Yerushalayim cannot be compared to a mace, to someone that passes away. He says, you know why? Because Yerushalayim is alive. Yerushalayim is alive. The Beis Hamikdash may have been destroyed and everything, but Yerushalayim is something that is alive, and something that's alive, you can't forget. You don't forget. You don't forget something that's alive. The Gezer is only on something that's not with us anymore. Yerushalayim is alive. So if someone were to, Chas v'sholom, someone was going to forget Yerushalayim, which is always so alive, then the pasuk tells us in Tehillim, Tishkach yimini. It doesn't. That's something that can happen. And so we have to understand, how are we going to feel this Avelis? The way we need to feel the Avelis of Yerushalayim is that we can never be complacent and come to terms with the fact, with the loss of Yerushalayim, with the loss of the Beis Hamikdash, and we can never forget that we have to have a desire to rebuild it. In other words, we need to be waiting every second for the glory of the Beis Hamikdash, the glory of Yerushalayim to come back, because that's how it applies to us. This happened almost 2,000 years ago, but yet we have to understand that Yerushalayim is alive, and we have to be hoping every second. The Kabrina Rav, Zechus Yagan Aleinu, and we've said this over the years a little bit, he says that the worst thing for a Yid, for everything, in this case of Korban Abayis, for sure, but really he says regarding everything, he says the worst thing for a Yid is to become complacent and come to terms. Whether it's you're having a hard time learning Gemara, person's having a hard time, whatever it is, you have a hard time with anything in your life. And the Kabrina Rav says the worst thing that you could do is say, you know what, that's me. I was created that way. I can't wake up in the morning. I can't do this. I can't stop speaking Lashon Hara. I can't. It's already water under the bridge. I'm living so many years this way. You become complacent. You come to terms and you say, this is me. That's the worst thing, because once you do that, you're not going anyplace. You're not going to grow, and you're not going to improve. So in our case, if a Yid comes to terms with the fact that it's okay to live without a Beis Hamikdash. Hey, listen, we're doing. We live. Look around. Look at what people are living. They're living pretty. How do you say it? Melepta chazvish and tug, right? People are enjoying themselves, and they're doing all kinds of wonderful things. It's okay. We can live without a Beis Hamikdash, and then we know that we're in trouble. See, Shalom brings down a little Maisi. Says, there's a Yid who came to the Apteruv, Zechus Yagan Aleinu. And he came to the Aptaruv, and Aptaruv famously, he would sit and listen to people's problems and help a lot of people. So this Yid comes to the Aptaruv, and he's unloading all his tsaras, whatever it is, his kids, his wife, his this, his parnusa, everything, and he's unloading to the Rav, and it seems that the Aptaruv is, the Yid couldn't understand, the Aptaruv is just sitting there. Just sitting there, he's like, waiting, yeah, no, anything else, and he's not reacting. And finally the person says, Aptaruv, Shlita, why aren't you reacting? Like, why don't you seem to care about anything I says? The Aptaruv says, listen, I didn't think you were finished. He turns to the person and says, what about the fact that we didn't bring a carbon tomid this morning? That doesn't bother you? I was waiting for that to be on your list. You're saying all the big problems that you have. What about the fact that you got up this morning and we did not bring a carbon tomid, we didn't have a Beis Hamikdash, and we didn't bring a carbon tomid? That doesn't bother you? That's not on your mind? It says a Yid could never, with all the problems a person could have and all the joy that we could have in this world, you have to know that that has to be on your mind too. It can never go away from us. It can never be that we don't remember that we brought a carbon tomid twice a day, and today we were not allowed to bring it. That should be right up on the list of our problems, and I'm talking to myself too, obviously. That has to be on our list of problems. When we say Yerushalayim Ircha 3 times a day in Shemona Esrei, we need to mean it. We have to mean it. We have to understand that Yerushalayim Ircha Barachamim Tashuv. We want to go back to Yerushalayim. And the Beis Hamikdash, and this is the key. What's in it for us? What's the nitzchias for us? Nesivos Shalom tells us that the Beis Hamikdash is going to be built first and foremost by what? By our desire to have it. Our desire, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to see, is that we want it, and we need it, and we miss it. And that becomes, when it really, really bothers you, those are the first building blocks, the foundation of the Bayis Shlishi. That's what it's going to be built on. It's going to be built on tikva. It's going to be built on hope. As Tzemach David Adcha, our yearning, our wanting for it, that is going to be the foundation of the Beis Hamikdash. Those are the original and the first building blocks of the Beis Hamikdash. So the Avelis during these 3 weeks, we're not mourning on the past. Yes, we feel bad, but it's like we said, it was almost 2,000 years ago. So it has to mean something to you right now. It has to be that we once brought a carbon tomid, and they brought it twice a day, and we're not doing it. We once saw the glory of the Beis Hamikdash. We once saw the Leviim singing and the Kehanim blessing everybody. That was something very real. That was something that was there, and we don't have it today, and we want it. Those are the building blocks of the future, are expressing our desire for the Beis Hamikdash. And now we're in the 3 weeks. We have another, 2 weeks from today is Tisha B'Av. Again, like we said, hopefully it's going to be a Yom Tov. But we have 2 weeks that every single one of us here and everybody that listens to the shir, coast to coast, around the world, especially us here, who we always say we try to learn the lessons in the Nesivos Shalom. What the Nesivos Shalom wants is that we should be awake. We should understand it's not the same today. It's not the same as much chesed as Hashem has given us, that we can live a life relatively, I don't want to say luxurious, but relatively lots of gashmias in our lives and everything. That shouldn't let us forget what our lives are really all about. Our lives are about Kedusha. Lives are about the Beis Hamikdash. So every one of us is going to try to do the building blocks. And they're going to have, some people, you give money, get your name up on a building. Imagine your name is on the foundation of Beis Hamikdash. It bothered you that there was no Beis Hamikdash, and you're going to have your name on the foundation there forever. You're going to have a lot of, I'm not that you're looking for the covet, but it's going to be a pretty good thing. Shabbos Chazak, let's strengthen ourselves with this. We should all be zoicha to see the Beis Hamikdash soon. B'mheira v'yameinu.